Spinderella cut it up one time.
The name of my show actually sort of came from a quote by C.S. Lewis that says, Eros will have naked bodies, friendship, naked personalities. And the person that I have today, I have on because we want to talk about something very specific.
Come on.
Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about
Today we're going to be talking about what happens when naked bodies run amok. And I have in the studio with me today Becky Dees from the Pregnancy Support Clinic. That's basically what you guys do on a day-to-day basis, is you deal with unplanned pregnancies.
I'm glad they come in with clothes on. That we aren't actually. Yeah, we do see women that come in that have find themselves in an unplanned pregnancy and just a lot of times in a pure crisis.
Yeah, it's a very desperate time, I know. I was looking up some issues on promiscuity online before our meeting today, and one of the things I thought was very interesting for people to understand, besides the STDs, the HIVs, you know, all sorts of things, for each person that they had sex with before they got married, their happiness with their sexual relationship inside marriage for women went down almost 4% per person. For men, it was even more profound. Of course, they had, on average, men had 11 partners and women had 4 partners. So men had more partners overall. But the men had a 5.3% per person less pleasurable, sustained relationship, sexual relationship inside marriage. But a lot of people come out of divorce and are extremely promiscuous. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of emotional hurts there. You need to feel desired. There's a lot of pain that needs to be healed. And instead of finding something that's productive that will help you actually get healed, people fill that with multiple sex partners because it's a permanent thing. Some of these STDs.
Ones that are not treatable start have an H. Mm-hmm. So it's easy to remember.
Okay.
Genital herpes,
yeah.
HIV, human papillomavirus, which is very prevalent, much like chlamydia. It's supposedly the number one STD in America today. But I heard about a retirement village in Florida that the STD rates were out of control.
Well, I think that's the fastest growing segment of, isn't it? In America, I read that somewhere.
Yeah.
That's the fastest growing segment of STDs in America is in people who are above 50. There's this weird dynamic that I see that has set itself up, that people who are married, women specifically who are married, don't want to have sex. And women who are single or divorced can't wait to have sex. So there's this weird dynamic that sets itself up because you hear women all, my husband just wants to have sex again. Oh my gosh. You know, how long does it really take? 15 minutes of oh baby and then, you know, your husband can be happy? Yeah. People justify it all different ways. They say, oh, well, we all have needs. When the fact of the matter is, there are consequences for all of this, whether you like it or not. But if you can decide during a 14-year marriage to only have sex once a year, then you can decide to be abstinent as a grown-up human being.
I talk to teens about this, and so I think it still applies. And you mentioned have boundaries. Mm-hmm. This is my commitment. I'm going to be abstinent. We're not going to sleep together. Just want you to know right up front, you know, and we're adults. And if you can't handle that, then okay.
And that's when, as an adult, you grow 5 heads and they look at you like, what?
That's okay.
It's so foreign to the culture we're in today. All right, so let's talk about this banquet that I went to a couple of months ago.
March 29th.
Yep, it was one of the largest fundraising banquets I think I've ever been to. And you said it wasn't your most heavily attended. How many was at the one before?
We had 725, but the fire marshal came in and cut the attendance down, and so this year was our second largest with 650.
And I think that just speaks very strongly to the fact that everybody agrees that we don't want death, even if they're not strongly pro-life. And nobody says, oh, I want to grow up one day and have an abortion. The speaker at this year's, he was a dynamic speaker. Tell me his name and a little bit about why you chose him this year.
Well, Dr. Bruce Wilkinson is the author of the Prayer Jabez. Most people will know him by that. Bruce really challenged us as a ministry. He asked me, do you want to save more babies? And I was like, well, yeah.
He's such a freight train in the questions that he asks.
Oh, yeah,
you know?
he goes right to the point.
Do you want to save more babies? Well, no, I don't want to save more babies. Well, of course I want to save more babies. What do you mean? What kind of question is that?
I know. So then he figured real quickly an amount, $60,000, that it would cost to stay open more hours, especially on the weekends. And he said, so are you willing to commit to stay open if we get this $60,000 a night to stay open on weekends? And I said, well, if it's God's will. He said, Becky, it's God's will. And I said,
I am the voice of God.
Okay. And So the board, made the decision to do that. So that was 125 plus 60, 185. And then we said whatever was over that would go towards our new building for that fund. And so that's what we're doing.